In this lesson, we're gonna start sculpting our floor piece. So here I got our floor piece imported into the ZBrush. It's the same floor piece we've done in lesson 2. You can find it in project files as well. So as you can see, it's not much right now, just a square. But if we turn on the polyframe here, you can see it's all divided into the bits that we divided it in 3ds Max. So I don't want to go in and sculpt every single one of those pieces. I only want to sculpt one of each and then duplicate them, but in a smart way so you can tell the difference. So what I'm going to do first is I'm just going to start hiding pieces that I want to sculpt, and then we're going to break them off. So I want to definitely sculpt the centerpiece here. So you should hold Shift Control and double click. So I want to sculpt one of these and one of those as well. One of these. Corner piece here, and maybe a couple of those. So we're just gonna sculpt these bits here, and then the rest we will just duplicate. So I'm just gonna go in subtools here, and just gonna click split, split hidden, and here we go. So now we got these bits. I'm just gonna move them up here in subtools, and gonna go group split. So now we have all of these pieces as individuals. Now let's start with the corner piece here. So what I want to do first is, as you can see, it doesn't have much geometry, and before I would divide it a few times, but now I start using the Dynamesh here. So I'm just gonna add probably 512 should be just perfect for this piece, and just gonna Dynamesh here. So here we got plenty enough geometry to start sculpting. So I'm gonna hide the wireframe, and I'm just gonna go in and start sculpting. Just gonna hold Shift and Control first and get a clip brush here, and just gonna clip it off. I just want to solo it out, so I'm just gonna click solo here, and let's continue. Just gonna clip here. What I'm trying to do right now is just trying to give bevel to all the edges so it's easier for me to sculpt after. Here, I'm not going to do the bottom bit because I'm only interested in the top. So here's a tricky one. I'm just going to rotate just enough to get it straight here. And clip this bit off as well. And now I have all the edges perfectly beveled. So next thing I want to do is I want to just grab AJ polish brush. Let's make it a bit smaller. And make sure that my alpha is set to square. And I'm gonna just start sculpting in. Then I'm gonna hold Shift and go in planar brush, and again just make sure that the alpha is square. So now every time I crack a little bit, I can hold Shift and straighten that bit out, just like this. So here we go. I'm just gonna hold Shift Control again and clip this edge here. And I'm probably going to do the same for everyone. So I'm going to clip this edge. Those not as much because they're already on the angle. And here we go. I'm just going to start going in. Now, when I sculpt, I try to use lower resolution possible. But as you can see, I start seeing a little bit of pixels. So I'm just going to click divide once so I can get rid of them. So now I'm just one subdivision up, and now I remember that I'm one subdivision up, so if I need to Dynamesh, I will need to increase my resolution twice more. So I'm just gonna sculpt these edges here, but here try not to give it any sort of definitive cracks because at this point it will be duplicated. So I'm just giving it a bit of an edge wear at the moment. Just a bit more here. Here we go. Now the next thing I want to do is I just want to grab H polish brush here, make it slightly smaller, and I'm gonna push those dents in a little bit. And what that does is when I'm gonna do my normal map, it will make all these cracks much more stronger in, and that will allow the normal map to be much more crisper and more vivid. So I'm just gonna push those in. As you can see, like the mesh sort of dents in a little bit. So I just want to do that on as much as surface as possible. Maybe make a little bit extra here. And here we go. Just unhide the rest. As you can see, the first stone is almost there. Now I'm not gonna add any cracks until I duplicate it so that I can create more individual sort of crack work. So at this point I'm just looking at doing the edge wear. So last thing I want to do is I just want to go into my brushes here, go click A, and find AJ Noise, which is this little brush here. Just gonna solo it out again. And just gonna start adding slight noise by holding Alt. It's gonna decrease the intensity a little bit. Holding Alt and just sort of going up and down. Alt, release Alt. Sort of give it a bit of wear from side as well. As you can see, the mesh slightly deforms, which is good because you don't want anything to be perfectly straight. I'm just gonna keep going until I'm satisfied. Here we go. So as you can see, it's moved a little bit, but we can always move it back. But as long as the surface is like more deformed, it is more perfect for us. So the next thing I want to do, just gonna grab H polish again. This time I want to add square alpha to it. Make it brush slightly smaller. And I want to change the focal shift down so that the brush is slightly less blurry. It's gonna go in and very subtly change the intensity down. It's gonna start sort of pushing the surface in, and what that does is basically, although it will look straight from the top, it actually has a little sort of indensities in it. So then when you have a normal map, the light will reflect much more interestingly on it, and that will make a much better normal map. I'm just gonna finish this off on sides here. Sides are not as much matter because most of the time you will only see the top, and most of the time we'll only bake the top, but in this particular case I want to make it as high resolution as possible, so I'm just going to do the sides as well. Here we go. And last but not least is the chip brush. What I like to do is just add these little small sort of chips here and there. Just crank the intensity down a little bit, and something like that. Now I only add small ones at this point, but further down the line I can add more definitive ones. And I'm just gonna grab my H polish brush again and just start sort of deforming these a little bit, make them a little bit more random looking. So I'm just gonna go in here and make it a bit more taller, a little smaller. If you hold Alt, you can sort of push it back a little bit. Here we go. And this one. Perfect. So that's almost finished stone. The last thing I want to do is add cracks, but that we'll do in further tutorials. So here's our first stone ready. So in next lesson, I'm going to show you guys how to duplicate that stone and to make it look not as repetitive as it is.